Welcome to the Decide to Move podcast, helping entrepreneurs like you make smart, pivotal shifts in your life and business. Tune in each episode for inspiring stories from brilliant business minds and trailblazers to find out how they made their big moves and how you can too. Now here's your host, author, speaker, business strategist, CEO, and founder of Decide to Move, Monica.m.bijoux.
Welcome to another episode of Decide to Move podcast. I am so excited because I have a great speaker with me today. He is going to talk all about creativity and how you can find your own creativity and bring it out of you. We know with everything happening with the pandemic, people are tapping into resources, internal resources that they didn't even know that they had. And now is an opportunity for Jag to actually talk to you about how you can actually take the things that you've uncovered and then bring out something great, especially in this new year. So without further ado, Jag Sandhu, I should say, right? Jag Sandhu, welcome, and please introduce yourself to my audience.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Monica, first of all, for giving me this opportunity to appear on your podcast and to share my thoughts on creativity. So as you mentioned, I call myself the most, massive promoter of creativity out there. It's something that I love to talk about. It's something that I've helped a lot of people discover, and it's something that I want to be talking about for the rest of my life, period. I'm enthusiastic about this to such an extent that I started my podcast last year, all focused around creativity. I said, okay, I am creative, but that's not going to seal the deal. Only things are going to happen when I help other people find their creativity, find their creative voices. So I started my podcast. It's called The International Connection, and I'll send all the links to Monica so that you guys can check it out. And it's all about how you can do two things. You can find your creative voice. I help you to do that. I bring on guests every single week who have done that. And by listening to their stories, you can figure out what your story is and you can find your creative voice. Number two, that's not just it, okay? You found out what you're enthusiastic about. Maybe you took some action towards it, but that's not gonna, get your creativity recognized. And we're in the game of getting your story published. We're in the game of getting your creativity recognized by the world. So number two valuable resource that you're going to gain from my podcast is actually doing something with that creativity. So I bring in creative entrepreneurs, actually people like Monica from all around the world who have achieved their creativity, found their creative voice and then have done something, established something with it. And as you can already tell how excited I get while talking about this. And I hope to have, more conversations with Monica as this podcast rolls on. So that's a little bit about myself, what I do. Hope I answered your question.
Great. And you said that you're the international connection. So where are you currently? And then how did you actually get involved? What made you decide to take this as your path and your journey to discover those that are creative?
That's a brilliant question. So the international connection, the international part is very near and dear to me. It belongs to my heart, literally. So as you can tell, my family background is Indian, so very South Asian, but I've lived in 3 to 4 countries, and lived in England. I've lived in Canada, spent a bit of time in the US, and then also India, of course. So as you can already tell, my accent is mixed, my experiences are mixed, and I've met with people from all across the world, and I said, man, everybody's got a story to share. We are different, yet we have so much in common. And I saw people going by telling me that their experiences, good experiences that can help other people get uplifted, get motivated, get inspired. I'm like, there's got to be a connection, man. I got to do something to get their story, inspire some other people that I know. And I'm a huge, and I told this to Monica before even appearing on this podcast, that I'm a huge believer in creating platforms. I believe that a platform gives you easier access to resources that can help you grow. Right. So I wanted to create a platform where I can share all of these stories that can inspire and help other people take some action. And I was lucky enough to create this podcast called The International Connection, where I can share all these stories and can inspire other people to take some action as well. That's number one. Number two, as I said, I come from a South Asian background in our community, and I'm not just saying about South Asian. I'm talking about Asian. I'm talking about, stuff I see around all the time. Things like STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, are kind of considered to be superior. than things like art and creativity. That's something which I don't believe in. That's something which I want to change. I went to school for like computer science and stuff, so I know science. I love science, but at the same time, I will not devalue art and creativity because I believe they go hand in hand together. If you're creative, you can be scientific as well. So to put one above the other or to put one below the other doesn't really, resonate with me. So I wanted to change it. With my podcast, I wanted to show that, hey, I'm one of you guys, been where you were, but also I'm doing something else on the side to express my creativity. And if I can do it, you can do it as well. And that's what the international connection is all about.
And I love the fact that you talk about STEM because, like, I had trig in the ninth grade. I've always been a person that loved math. I love doing the scientific thing. However, for me, creativity is huge and important. That's how people connect with one another more so than going up to someone and saying, "Hi, what's 2 times 2 plus 3 divided by 4?" Right? People like, what? There's no connection with any of those. And most times you'll find engineers are by themselves. They really are focused on their own work. And in this space of podcasting and coaching and different things like that, it's really about building that connection and really bringing out the creative side. And like you talk about a platform, that's why Decide to Move podcast came about. It was really about helping people connect business owners, help those that are experts or even know certain things in the field, be able to help other entrepreneurs get there, those that don't quite know where to go, where to start, or they've already been doing something, but they want to make a pivotal shift. So for me, it's important to have someone that comes on that is creative in what they do and be able to give people a different way of looking at it. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Hey, anytime, you said it right there. If you're an entrepreneur, in my eyes, you're creative. Because every single day you got to wake up, you got to figure out one creative way to get your business moving. That's creativity to me, So that's a really important point that you brought up right there.
Yeah, and so I have a personal question I want to ask. So
for sure.
For me, I grew up, I'm supposed to be a lefty, and they say left-handed people are really creative. But my mother did not know how to teach a lefty how to write. So she made me right-hand dominant, attempted, I should say. So I write with my right hand. And so I often find myself dipping back and forth between being very logical and then being creative. And now I find myself just being ambidextrous and be able to float back and forth. How do you help someone who is, say, we all have creativity in us, but they're stuck? They don't quite know how to break free and let that creative side come out.
Absolutely. That's a brilliant question again. And I've thought about this to such an extent that last year I actually wrote an article on Medium, and it's called Unblock Your Creativity. I'm going to send you the link so that your listeners can check it out as well. And in there, I talk about the exact same thing. I was like this as well. For me, the case wasn't being left-handed or right-handed. The case was I was in an environment which didn't really encourage creativity. So whatever thoughts, experiences that I wanted to express, they were just blocked. They couldn't come out. So I was in the same position as you, although our circumstances was different, but we were going through the same thing. You see what I mean? So there was something that was needed on my personal level to change my environment, to change that mindset that, hey, it doesn't matter where I am, although my environment is telling me not to do this, but if my heart is telling me to do one thing, I'm going to do it no matter what. So the first step to do that is to have that shift in mind, have that mind shift, as you say. Your society might not be encouraging you to follow this, but if you believe that you've got a talent, if you believe that you've got some thoughts and everything, you got to create something, a platform or anything to liberate them, I want to say. You want to write a poetry, man, take out a blank piece of paper, start writing. You want to get good at writing, journal every single day. That's how slowly but gradually you let your creativity out, you let it flow. And eventually you'll see that, hey, I can take this to another level. I can maybe start a website and start posting my blogs. Medium's out there, monetized platform. If your content is good enough, you're gonna get monetized, but it has to start with that mind shift. That's where I started. And that's why I recommend you start as well for all of you guys who are struggling with blocked creativity.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you for sharing that. I've actually said to people, when you want to write something, even if you don't know what to write, just take a piece of paper and just write, I don't
Yeah.
even know what I want to write about. This probably is the dumbest exercise ever. And all of a sudden, what it is releasing the blocks because you're acknowledging them. And then now
Yeah.
you're able to be free to just actually express yourself. And so thank you for saying
Yeah.
that. So what's another thing that we can do when we want to bring out our creativity?
Absolutely. So one major thing which I went through was, what are people gonna think when I publish this, when I put this on a public sphere, a public stage, when it's visible to other people? That is another, cause for blocked creativity, I want to say. You think about what other people are gonna think, and then you don't take any action. You don't decide to move, if you will, just by listening to the other people's thoughts. So, in order to, overcome that, this is what I did. Okay. I said, hey, I'm going to keep a personal journal, which is just going to belong to myself. Whatever thoughts, experiences I'm going to write in there, only I'm going to know about this. You know, I kept writing, I kept writing, I kept writing until I reached a point where I was writing stuff, that I went through, but I knew that some of my friends are going through the same thing. And if, I can share this story with just two to three people, have them around, get some drinks going around or whatever is your deal, go for it. And then just share that experience that, hey, you know what? I know your story. I know you went through the same thing that I did. And here's something I wrote about it. What do you think? Give me your 2 cents on this. They'd be like, yeah, man, this is good. The way you've written this summarizes my situation. And then he would pass it on to another person. He'd be like, yeah, I went through the same thing last week, man. You got to put it out there somewhere because there are so many people who are struggling. So eventually you keep it to yourself, then you do that marginal shift of sharing it with 2 to 3 of your best friends who have been through the same stuff. Because come on, we all go through the same experiences at one point or another. So if you're writing about that, you got to share it with some of your friends. Eventually, you'll see they want to share it with so many people around the globe. And that's what happened with me. If I can tell you my little personal experience, when I was living in England, I was taking a course on creative writing, which was a very challenging course for someone coming from a science background. Creative writing, me, come on, give me equations to solve, I'm not going to sit here and write poetry. Come on, man, but I want to see those oxygen molecules on on the blackboard. And then, but no. So the teacher said, I'm going to push you to write something. So next week when you come, I don't care how bad your poetry is. I want you to stand in front of this class and read it out. And I literally had to force myself to write. I wrote about the thing which was very dear to me, but I couldn't get it out. And again, it was creativity. So I wrote a poem on creativity. And then my teacher said, okay, man, just stand here and read it in front of this entire class. And in England, classes in universities, like 75 students or something. And I was sitting there and I was like, oh, man, I'm going to suck. As soon as I finish this, people are going to mock me to such an extent that, hey, my life's going to be changed forever. I read it out. Whatever I wrote, I read it out. And people actually, to my surprise, related to that poem. They didn't care about grammar. They didn't care about juxtaposition, rhyme scheme, whatever technicalities there are when you write a poem. They were like, whatever you were talking about were coming straight from your heart. And we were going through the same thing. So thank you for actually stepping up and sharing that and giving us the inspiration to do the same thing. Lo and behold, later in the weeks, we had more people coming up and doing exactly what I did, sharing their imperfect poems out to the class. And this is how the process begins. So since then, I've actually, written quite a lot of creative contemporary poetry after that. And, I just keep getting compliments. But this wasn't the case. You have to start somewhere. You have to decide to move, even though you're moving just an inch. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I love that. So 3 things came to mind when you were saying that. The first thing is just do it, be imperfect. Just do it. Right? At the end of the day, just do it because you never know what you consider imperfect because we're our harshest critic. We are harder on ourselves than other people. And just even in that breath of just actually doing something, you're actually already making a movement. The second thing is when we don't share what's something creative or share what's inside of us, we're stopping someone else from being healed from what we have to offer. Like you said that there was multiple students that said, thank you for sharing. And it motivated them to step up to the plate. So that's super huge, so thank you
Absolutely.
for sharing that. And then the last thing that I thought about as you were
Yeah.
talking is that everything that we do is always not meant for everybody, because if
No,
we're
no, no.
busy pleasing everyone, then you're really pleasing no one, and you're being
Exactly.
like a chameleon and not true to who you are. So at the end of the day, just being authentic allows people to connect with that authenticity, instead of it just being about, I'm going to write this so that way people will like it. I've actually once heard somebody say, I wrote this post on Facebook and no one liked it, but then when I write about this, people like it. And I'm like, are you writing about stuff that means something to you regardless of the
Yeah.
likes, or you're doing it just for the likes? And it's like, oh, I didn't think about that. It's like,
Yeah.
so you switch who you are just so that you can get a like, and that person probably don't really care and truly not your friend anyway. So thank you
Absolutely.
for sharing that. I actually appreciate
No,
that.
no, no. I love that. I love the way you've summarized it. Are you creating or even writing, in my case, about something that you actually care about? Or are you just doing it to get famous? The former is actually going to take you somewhere, but the latter one is just, it's going to die out eventually.
Exactly.
And
'Cause
that's one thing. The first poem I wrote was on creativity, something that I care about, something that I like. That's why it got compliments and everything. Had I written about price of tea in China, nobody would have given a damn about this, would it? So
Probably not, except for the
no,
people who really want to know about how much the tea costs.
exactly. Absolutely.
And now that one step that you made has paved the way to what you're focused on today. And it's now you've created your brand and your business around creativity and connecting people from all over the world. So that one class opened up this can of greatness that you wouldn't have never tapped into before.
Absolutely. Now, one thing leads to another. Compound effect, people like to call it. People like to say small droplets make an ocean. I like to
Mm-hmm.
say, small actions, small actions, 1 minute a day. If you're writing down something in your journal, it's going to have a huge impact over a long term that you don't even know yet.
Exactly.
This is the problem with people, Monica. Let me tell you this. They would, underestimate their creativity to such an extent, that they would actually not take any action because they're looking at just a short-term period. What am I going to get in the next month? That's not you should be asking. You should be looking at the character growth that you're going to see if you keep taking this action for a long time. Me, 2 years ago, when I was writing that first poetry, I was nothing like this. Now you see this guy jumping around, getting overly enthusiastic about creativity, coming across as weird. It's the result of, what I've done and what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
And that's it.
most definitely. I mean, I can tell you now, I am totally in a different place than when I first started my podcast. It was an idea, and I was like, I
Yeah.
want to be able to provide a way for people to get information and knowledge that they can actually use, not just to be talking to talk, but actually information that they can use so that they can start making a difference in their life and in their business, and then from there grow. And I'm been pleased about how it's blown up so well. It's in so many countries I can't even count anymore. I don't even like, I'm just like happy that people are connecting with me. Like we were able to
Absolutely.
connect together, and just people are hearing it and seeing it, and they're actually interested in what's being said because they're putting it to
And
use.
what
So
an
that's great.
initiative you've taken, Monica. Let me tell you that. What an initiative you've taken. The amount of work you're doing. I follow you on Instagram, recently became one of your followers, checked out all the
Oh,
posts,
great.
and not only from a design perspective, they are great, but like the value that you're giving out to people by, putting out the episodes and everything inspires young people like me, like all across the world. And you can say this, you're the best reviewer of this. Doesn't it feel nice when you connect with a person from a different side of the world who got inspired and wanted to come on your podcast because he or she believes in what you believe in?
Yes, it is. It really does. And that's why I'm so glad that you're here to actually talk about creativity, because going into, 2021 is a year where we've had 2020. It's been such a very difficult year. I mean, pandemic, we're going into 2021, or actually in 2021 with the same thing, with the pandemic, with, so many things happening, people losing jobs and stuff like that. And so this right here to me is so important for us to be able to tap inside of our natural gifts that we had. Like, you had no clue when you were sitting there taking chemistry that you had that much gift in you to bring out in other people. So, I mean, I commend you on taking that step. And you said it's been a couple years and you were in a different country then. Now you're in Canada. And so you're traveling the world and making a change for other people. So it's exciting. So what would you say to someone, that another thing that you would say to someone is, now I know what I want to do. I know that I say I want to write, because you teach people how to write their story. I want to write my story. What would be the best platform or the most creative way for me to get my story out there? If, say, I don't have money and I don't really know people, I'm not connected, what would be some things that people can do to get out their story out there?
Absolutely. And I have a broken record on this, talking about platforms. I'm again going to shift the conversation here, because this is what I did. Once I started with creativity, I didn't have money to, talk to a publisher to get it published. I was just writing stuff in my notepad. As a matter of fact, I'm writing stuff here right now. Stuff like this was all around my room and in my head. And yes, I was going through the same thing like some of you are going out there, that, hey, if my ideas are not being read by people, if people are not coming across my content, then is it really worth putting my time into this? Yes, I have been there. I've been there, But then again, do you have a Facebook account? Do you have an Instagram account? What are you doing in there? You're liking products, you're going to websites, you're buying stuff, DMing some of your friends, trying to figure out, stalking some girls or guys or whatever, How are you using those tools? I decided to make that change. I said that, yeah, okay, I like to shop around and look at stuff. I might do that, but I'm going to spend just 20% of my time doing that and 80% of the time promoting some of the stuff that I've written. Microsoft Word, I opened it up, wrote my first poem, took a picture of it or a screenshot of it, shared it on my Instagram. Whatever followers I had back then, they read it. They said, we want to know more, write more. They were DMing me on that, And how much did that cost? Nothing. How much does creating an account on Instagram cost? Nothing, So again, if you're looking for excuses, you're going to find ways in which you don't want to do it, but you have the will to do it. You'll figure out the ways to do it. So Instagram, I love Instagram. I post each and every single part of my creativity, whatever I create, a picture of it on Instagram with appropriate hashtags, tag people and everything. I get a lot of engagement there. Medium, $50 for 12 months. $50 for 12 months. Save money. You can save $50. Don't eat outside. If you love writing, if you love connecting with other writers who can help you to grow your writing, Medium is the place to go. One of my biggest goals for this year, whatever's left with it, and for next year, is actually to grow massively on Medium. So I'm going to have a lot of content out there. So if you want to be in a network of writers, you got to be on Medium and publishing your story there, because you can get it monetized. This is the platform power. This is what it offers. You don't have to spend much, and you can have your creativity shown to the world for literally free of cost. And I don't care whether you write, you create videos or podcasts. If you create videos, create a YouTube channel, create good content, authentic content that people can relate with. And then the rest of the story will unfold automatically, like it did for me, like it did for Monica, but you got to start somewhere, be on a platform. That's what I would say.
Yeah. And I like that resource, Medium. I've never heard of that. So that is definitely a great resource for writers. And you've written several books yourself. What books have you written, and where can people find them?
I haven't written books, but I have written, I've worked with a lot of publishers online, and I've written a lot of blogs.
Okay.
So yeah, book writing is something which is coming. It's in the pipeline for sure. Like, it's going to happen. But I've worked with, I think 5 or 6 online publishers online at the moment. And I'm going to send you the Medium link, but all you got to do is go on Medium and write my name, Jag Sandhu. That's JAGSANDHU. All of my work, contemporary poetry, blogs, fiction writing. I do a little bit of that as well. All of that is there. Check it out, comment on it, review it, critique it. I don't care whether you do negative comments or anything. If there's something you don't like, tell me. If there's something you like, tell me. Engage with my content and get inspired. That's the most important thing. See that here's this dude sitting here who can create something like this. Why can't I do it? Ask yourself that question, and same with my podcast. I've have around over 60 episodes so far. Go there, check it out. Let me know what you think. If you have more ideas as to how I can improve, let me know. But most importantly, get inspired by them. Take ideas. I don't care if you copy my ideas, just do it. Create something and then come back to me and I'll help you take it to the next stage as well.
And I'll add something to that. If you do see something that you like, give him the proper respect of acknowledging that this came from Jag, that let people know. So don't just take it and steal it. Give credit where credit is due. And that's one of the things that's so important. I am a writer. I've actually wrote 3 collaborative projects and a 2-time bestseller. And I can honestly tell you, like everything that you were saying, Jag, that is so super huge and important about telling your story. And even if you're not comfortable telling your own story by yourself, you can actually become part of a collaborative project where you're with several different authors as well. Same theme, but you're all telling your story. And at the end of the day, you're still an author. Like Jag, you can take all your poetry that you have and grab it and end up getting it published because of the fact that you have different articles or themes. And so it's really about just getting started and getting out there, whether it's blog and all the free information that you said. Like people can actually go on Facebook and do Facebook Lives or even IGTV or ITV and actually read a little snippet of their stuff and have people make comments. So it's just so much free stuff that you can do.
Absolutely. And one action that you take, the results of it, you can never imagine. That one poem I wrote obviously got me here, but it opened up so many different doors and it connected me with people all across the world. You know what I mean? Literally last week, some of my very old friends were messaging me that, hey, by listening to your podcast, we got the inspiration to start something. Now we want your help because we want to start this channel. And that to me was the best gift ever. If I can wrap that and put it under a Christmas tree, man, my Christmas is done, And that's why I started, to make a change all across the world. So it doesn't matter whether you've got your thoughts written on a yellow legal pad right now. If you stick with it, trust me, the ripple effect is going to come in and you're going to make a big impact on the world. So keep doing.
Yeah, that's great. And is there any other ideas that you can share for people wanting to be creative or who's actually started their creativity and they're ready to get out there, bust open and let 2020 stay where it needs to be, which is behind?
Absolutely. No, for sure. And this is where I apologize. I'm going to do a little bit of self-promotion because what I've done is I've created a checklist because I work with a lot of writers on Medium and everywhere. And we are in the process of creating content, good quality content that you can download for free because I believe in free resources. I believe that they are the driver of people's creativity. So a lot of content are coming up. But right now, if you hover over to theinternationalconnection.com, you can actually download a creativity checklist, which is basically a strategy that I use to create anything, whether it's my podcast or it's a blog post or it's fiction and writing, poetry, whatever it is. I use that strategy. I've listed down the steps and it's available for you to download for absolutely no cost at all for free. Theinternationalconnection.com. Download that checklist and trust me, if you follow those steps, you're going to have something written down that you can then publish and get some engagement out of your content. So that's one thing which I recommend for sure.
That's great. And I will definitely make sure the links and everything is in the show notes. And so whether you're listening to this on one of your favorite directories or actually watching this on YouTube, the link is going to be there. So that way you can actually have that access, because at the end of the day, we want you to take your creativity and make something great happen. Don't let the excuse of what happened in 2020 be your reason for not showing up in the world in 2021. It's time to take and stand up for what you believe in and the gifts that you have, let them come out, because we definitely want to see more people making a bigger impact. So that way, the more impact we have, the more people can start living their life to the fullest. And that's what my
Absolutely.
mission is, definitely.
And I believe, Monica, you said right there that being creative is the most innate human quality, that we have. We should be creative. That's something, the satisfaction you get after someone compliments or even acknowledges something that you've written organically, that self-satisfaction has no match. For me at least, no amount of prizes, recognition, money can actually match the amount of satisfaction I get when you or someone else compliments or acknowledges something that I've written.
Exactly.
And I want more and more people to feel that way, because if they do, the dopamine kicks in and they want to create more and more and more and more. So as I said, the creativity checklist is on the internationalconnection.com. Plus more resources are coming. I'm working with a lot of writers right now to make life easy for you and to get your creativity out as soon as possible. All right. So be on my radar. I want to help you.
Yes. And you said that there's other things that you're working on right now as well.
Absolutely.
What are some of the additional things that you're working on?
So again, as I said, I believe in social media. So we're actually working on a Facebook group. We're going to have new writers and new creators. I want to say, shouldn't just say writers, because whether you create a YouTube video, whether you create a podcast, whether you write blogs, poetry, whatever it is, we're going to create a community where I'm going to bring in 10 to 15 of my very good friends who are also creators, who are going to help you, take your creativity to the next level. So we're going to give you that audience. We're going to give you that audience boost. I'm going to bring in my people. We're going to review your article. We're going to give you suggestions and everything. All of this for free, by the way. And then we're going to take it to the next level so that you can develop your skills as a creator. And as I said, doesn't matter whether you're writing, making a YouTube video, or creating a podcast. I have experience in all of those areas. So does my friends. So we're going to help you grow your creativity to the next level. So that's coming up. One of the other things that I'm doing is I interview a lot of writers and a lot of creators on my podcast. So what I've started doing now is, and this is something which I recommend to every other podcaster or creator out there, is summing it down to what they thought about, summarizing their arguments, creating like a PDF checklist version of that, and actually inserting that below your podcast episode, so that people, after listening to their podcast, they have some tools and resources that they can download and they can take them with them to take some action. So that's what I'm doing as well. So every person I interview, I'm creating some sort of checklist or a PDF for you guys to download so that you can take something with you and can use those tools and resources to take your creativity again to the next level.
Excuse me. That's great.
Yeah.
I felt like I got choked up for a second. Yeah. So how can people follow you on Instagram and Facebook?
Absolutely. So I'm going to give you all the links as well. But if you want to follow me on Instagram, my personal account, again, Jag Sandhu, search me up there. You can follow me. I post a lot of content about my daily life. I share everything. A massive fan of soccer, so I have content about that. Massive fan of YouTube, podcasts, and everything there. If you're a podcaster specifically, follow the International Connection on the on Instagram. It's at the IntCon, which is THEINTCONN, the International Connection, the IntCon. And I post a lot of tips about how to get better at podcasting, how to sound better when you're recording, and podcasting best practices and everything. Interact with me on any of those accounts. And if you have any questions, I would love to answer them for you. One of the recent things that I started is called the Observe podcast, in which I'm actually helping. I'm not directly involved in it, but I'm actually helping two of my very good friends grow their podcast. It's called the Observe podcast. So follow the Observe podcast on the International Connection. You'll see how I'm helping them grow their channel as well. And on Facebook, again, Jag Sandhu, that's the name. Go search me up, send me a friend request, send me questions. If there's anything that I can do to help you or your creativity, do not hesitate to reach me.
Most definitely. And like I said, once again, all this will be in the show notes. So that way, if you didn't catch it, you can go back and watch this again, or just go to the show notes and be able to print it out. So, Jag, do you have any last words for our listeners and viewers?
Absolutely. We talked about people who want to start. We talked about people who are already starting, want to take it to the next level. But there's one segment, there's one small, I want to say, population, relatively small, but still, large amount of people go through that, is who are just about to give up, Monica. There are people out there who have tried things, they're not working for them, and they're on the brink of giving up. They're on the verge of giving up. They've had it enough. They're not seeing returns and everything. They are looking for some sort of hope or some sort of motivation, someone that can show them that, hey, stick with it. If it's not working today, that's fine. Come back to it tomorrow, but don't give up. So I want to talk directly to that population right now. Me and Monica can both account for this, that we were at that stage at some point or the other in our lives, and if you're looking for some sort of hope, let me tell you something. If you give up today and quit, you will most definitely, you've missed out the chances, the opportunities that are lined up for you had you consistently continued with the process. Let me tell you something. You've got something around the corner. You've got it coming. All you got to do is stick with it. Things are not working right now because you're in the process of figuring out what works and what doesn't. The only way to get through it is to come back to it with new ideas, keep trying until you get an opportunity. When you look back, you'll see, yes, you've made a lot of mistakes, but you've learned from them. And those learnings that you got are going to be the biggest valuable resource that you can ever ask for. Those are going to be the biggest advice someone can ever give you. So don't quit, take a break, come back to it tomorrow, try something new, but keep trying. I like to say that stickability is 95% ability. The rest 5% is disputed whether it's talent or not, but a majority of that is stickability. So just stick to it. And I'm there to help you. If you really want my opinion on something, feel free to send me a message and I would literally move mountains to help you figure out your creativity. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Jag. That is so amazing. And thank you so much for being on Decide to Move podcast. You have been amazing. You've given people a lot of different ways that they can look at their creativity, talk to those that are thinking about giving up. I love that stickability. I mean, I absolutely love that. And so really, you guys have no reason not to do something different than, they said the biggest way of, the definition of insanity is continue to do the same thing and expecting different results. And as a business coach, but also an actual licensed therapist, I can tell you that is so accurate and true, because if you want to see change, you have to sometimes be that change. And so why not make it be you? Instead of waiting for somebody else to make that difference, you can actually do it. You have lots of resources, people out there that's willing to help you. Even if you don't have any money, there's different options that you can do for absolutely free. So let excuses no longer be a part of your vocabulary. So I'm Monica.m.bijoux, CEO and founder of Decide to Move and the host of Decide to Move podcast. And I've had with me Jag. He is the international connection. So follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and all of our social mediums. And we look forward to connecting with you basically at our next episode. Bye for now.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Decide to Move podcast with Monica M. Bijoux. If you are ready to make a pivotal shift and take your destined position in the world, then schedule a free discovery call by going to www.decidetomove.com. For all links mentioned in today's show and to listen to previous episodes, go to www.decidetomovepodcast.com. And remember, we've all been delivered rotten fruit in our past. We can choose to chew on the rotten fruit trying to convince ourselves it's what we want, or we can become the fruits of our labor and create an incredible, fulfilling, and inspiring life and business out of it. You have what it takes to create the life you want.